Today on the DML News podcast, Kamala Harris tells Joe Rogan, ain't doing it. Not under your rules anyway. Plus, CNN kicks off a very credible conservative because, well, they said he's racist. But wait until you get the details. Plus, Whoopi Goldberg goes out of her mind against Trump. What else is new? And we've got some polling updates and an arrest of a woman who's pro-Trump while she was voting. Get ready. We're here today, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son, Denny, and on the controls is my other son, Ryan. At the outset of the show right here, I want to apologize if you hear a humming in the back or any nailings or anything like that. They're working on our roof today. I think my hideous landlord, who I can't stand, probably set this up on purpose solely because he knows that we would be having our biggest week. But that's okay, because just like Trump, when somebody tries to give you lemons, you turn it into lemonade. And that's what we're going to do here on the program. Also, before we dive in real quick, I'll talk about it more at the end of the program, but do not forget dmlcbd.com/BOGO, B-O-G-O. It is our last buy one, get one free of the year. If Kamala Harris wins, it may be the last one we ever have. So get ready. Get your wallet out and get your CBD at a buy one, get one free across the entire site. We've already sold out of the gummies, so get in there before they take stuff away from you, meaning all those other people who know how great DML CBD is. There are a bunch of different things we could talk about today, but I think we're going to focus in a bit on how unhinged the left is becoming with just 1 week left before the big day. Now, it's hard to say that Tuesday, Election Day, is the big day when we've had over 40 million votes cast so far in this election. That's a record number. Early voting, over 40 million. And that doesn't include what happened yesterday. So let's assume for the moment that there's 50 million. Let's say there's 50 million votes cast already in this unbelievable election where we've got a man who proved himself to be a great president for 4 years, did not do a single thing that they accused him of doing before he even got into office. Remember, we were going to go into World War III. The stock market and the economy was going to go totally into implode mode. And Trump was going to just be the biggest hater of all time, the biggest racist. What wound up happening is a different story. We wound up not having a single war. We wound up having the strongest economy of my 55 years. And, oh, by the way, Trump did more for all different demographics, all different ages, all different religions. Everybody was thriving. So the narrative that they gave you at the beginning of 2015, 2016 turned out to be a lie. The media always lies. They always try to scare you that tomorrow is going to end if Donald Trump is still around. Well, the other thing that the media does, because they're repeating that same sort of storyline. They're calling Trump Hitler. They're calling his supporters Nazis. You get it. You've heard it. How do you not hear it? It's every single day that they get away with this. Now, the amazing part of it, the amazingly sad part of it, is if right now I was to use the N-word, I would wind up being all over the place, pasted up on X, pasted up on Facebook, maybe even contacted by the federal government. It would be hate crimes. I'm a hater. I'm not allowed to say that word, even though blacks can call each other that word. If you're a white dude or a white girl and you use the N-word, forget it. Your whole career is over. You're going to be shunned throughout your society. It's horrible. It doesn't matter if you've given 10, 15, 30, 40, $50 million to charity. It doesn't matter if you gave up one of your organs for somebody. It doesn't matter. You're slime. But when the left goes out and calls you and me and Trump and anybody who votes for Trump a Nazi, there's nothing said. There's nothing done. It's no big deal. We talked about this yesterday. Donald J. Trump hasn't killed anybody in his life, let alone 6 million Jews in gas chambers. And yet they get away with calling him and referring to him as Hitler. And they wonder why he's been shot at, and almost killed in Butler. Why he almost had another assassination attempt while he was playing golf. They wonder why this happens. Actually, if you ask me, I think the left is just pissed off they haven't found somebody who knows how to shoot well. Yesterday, on CNN, your typical one-sided story took place. There's a gentleman named Ryan Gerdusky. I've known him for quite some time. He's a good guy, young guy. At this point, he's probably in his early 30s. He's a Republican. He's a Trump supporter. When I had Dennis Michael Lynch Unfiltered, I'd guess he probably was on my show a good 30, 35 times. He actually filled in for me when I went on vacation once or twice. He's a good man, a very good man. He wrote a book with a very good friend of mine who's been on this show plenty of times and also served as a guest and a fill-in for me. That's Harlan Hill. They wrote a book together about how the Democrats lie to you. Well, he was on a CNN panel, and a disgusting Mr. Hassan, who has had to apologize many times for the different things he has said that are degrading to people, he was referring to Trump supporters as Nazis. Ryan Gerdusky, defending himself and people like you and me, wound up making a joke back at Hassan. We're going to play the video for you in about 2 seconds here. Ryan was kicked off the show. Commercial break came, and Ryan wasn't there when the show went back because they deem him a racist. This is the sort of one-way street that you and I deal with every single day. Ryan, play the clip of the exchange between Mr. Hassan, who is telling, because the way the clip picks up, they were going back and forth. So Mr. Hassan says, if you don't want to be called Nazis, don't act like it. And Ryan came back. Go.
You don't want to be called Nazis. Stop doing.
You're called
stop
an
saying-
anti-Semite more than anyone else at this table.
Yeah.
And people will
By
sit there
you.
and, no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I don't.
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. I'm used to it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
So I just want to give you the part that you didn't hear in the very beginning because it wasn't picked up on the clip. Hassan says to Ryan, referring to Trump, he talked about enemy of the people, which is Joseph Goebbels. He talked about the enemy within, which is literally Hitler. I mean, these are, my problem is, I get it, which nobody wants to be called Nazis. It's very inflammatory. But if you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing. And then Ryan cut him off and said, you're an anti-Semite. Because everybody on the panel calls you an anti-Semite. And that's how the whole thing unleashed. Well, like I said, when Ryan went to commercial, they all went to commercial, he was removed from the panel. Even though he had apologized and said you took it out of context, he was removed from the panel. Ryan, play what happened when they came back from commercial break.
We're back here, and before we get started, I want to just address what happened in the last segment. And first, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hassan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show. It's a heated time. We're in the middle of a political season. We are 8 days from a presidential election. But we can have conversations about what is happening in this country without resorting to the lowest of the lowest kind of discourse. Want to address that, and I want to apologize to the viewers at home because we want to be able to hear each other, we want to be able to talk to each other, and we plan to do that in this next segment.
Now, another thing I just want to bring up is that when Ryan Gerdusky was saying about the thing, I hope your beeper doesn't go off, that is because the Israelis were using technology that were basically hunting down members of Hezbollah and Hamas, killing them off through that. So Ryan has put out a statement on X, which says, You could stay on CNN if you falsely call every Republican a Nazi and have taken money from Qatar-funded media. Apparently, you can't go on CNN if you make a joke. I'm glad America gets to see what CNN stands for. And this is what we're up against, Dennis.
It's just the clown show network. I mean, they say that they're all willing for arguments and discussions and coming together to discuss, differing ideas. And yet all CNN does is they want to shutter off anyone that actually challenges them. And then they, don't censor anyone that probably would be a lot worse than what anything Ryan just said, which again wasn't anything that would be taken to be racist. So, I'm not too shocked that this was part of their actions. They have been in I mean, we talked yesterday about how Kamala's campaign's in desperation mode. That goes in tandem with how the media's been. Even the other day, yesterday, MSNBC said they weren't going to play back the joke about Puerto Rico because we know that parents are sitting at the kitchen table with their kids right now listening to the news, and we wouldn't want to offend, which I don't think anyone's actually doing that. But two, it's just to create this narrative that they're holier than thou, and that they are the gatekeepers to what can actually be spoken on television. And I'm excited for the interview that we have later tonight, because one of the big things I talked about, his name's Brylan Hollyhand, very articulate, smart 18-year-old, very politically active. And one of the topics we talked about is that the likes of CNN and MSNBC have proven themselves to be so irrelevant. I mean, it shows in the viewership numbers. But it's one of those things where when you watch something like this, I don't even flinch, because I'm like, this is just another tactic that they pull that showcases that they're more activists than they actually are commentators or news people.
And one of the things I think you have to take a look at is that the person that Gordusky was having this debate with has a very checkered history.
Oh, yeah.
So Mehdi Hassan, okay? He had to apologize in 2019 for homophobic statements he made in Islamic sermons earlier in his career, which he referred to gays and non-Muslims as cattle. All right? That's the kind of person we're talking about here. Now, you may remember Hassan actually had a show on MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
MSNBC canceled his weekend show last year in the wake of the October 7 terror attacks by Hamas. All right? This is not a good person. And yet Ryan Gordusky, is making what clearly was a joke, right? And they're going to just pinpoint on the Trump supporter, and they're going to support the guy who has a history of saying horrible things. And this is par for the course. You talk about what Denny was referring to is that, for those of you who don't know, we've been playing 2 podcasts a day. We're doing one in the morning, and then at nighttime. Last night we did one for Team DML. Tonight it's wide open for everybody. Dennis interviewed a young 18-year-old kid who is out there trying to get people to go out and vote for Trump. It's very, very interesting. It will play tonight at 7 p.m. and it will be on Team DML and the DML News app. So get that DML News app. If you don't have it, you get it for free from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. The media has been one-sided for a long time, and people are now waking up to it. You just talked about, something I think we need to put into play. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, bought the Washington Post, the far-left, discredited Washington Post. It's been more than 30 years running that the Washington Post has endorsed a presidential candidate. For the first time in 30 plus years, I think it may be 36 years, Jeff Bezos says, we're not going to endorse anybody. We're not going to do it. Now, that is a slap in the face to Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris obviously is going to be the favorite for the Washington Post. The Washington Post has lost 200,000 subscribers because Jeff Bezos will not support Kamala Harris. And he wrote an op-ed. And the op-ed where he's explaining why he did what he did is he said, people don't trust us anymore. We are all becoming irrelevant, all being the New York Times, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, LA Times, all these left rags They're all becoming absolutely irrelevant. In the same way, you look at CNN, they just never learn their lesson. CNN used to be a highly respected news organization with outlets all over the world. There was an airplane crash, there was a war, there was something going on international. You didn't hesitate. You went to CNN. And over the course of time, they've allowed the leftist ideology that sits at the top floor at CNN to take over its entire programming. And their ratings today are absolutely anemic. Let's not forget that they tried doing CNN Plus, which is a subscription model. And it closed down almost immediately after it started because nobody wanted to give their money over to it. So yeah, and this is why they all hate Elon Musk. And if you connect the dots going backward, the left media has always been biased. They've always been horrible, but they've been able to tuck it away. People didn't really know what was happening because they didn't have access to the news. They didn't have access to a lot of information. When Trump came onto the scene and started calling them, you may recall he was fighting with Jim Acosta from CNN, and he said, "You're fake news." That sort of started the war, if you will, against the right and the left when it came down to news. Now, Fox News was born because there was only left-leaning information. But I mean, now it's a war. And that war was started by Trump, rightfully so, because he exposed them all. And now the war has gone, I don't even know if there's a word beyond war. It's gone ballistic because X has created a platform to where everything you need to know is there. And he does it fairly, unlike CNN. He doesn't shut people down because they're pro-left. He lets them speak their mind. I mean, we just played last week, or maybe it was, was it yesterday? No, it was last week, about Keith Olbermann calling for the arrest of Elon Musk on Elon Musk's program. I mean, on his platform. And he did nothing to stop it. So on the right, we try to do a two-way street. On the left, it's a one-way street. And yet the left is continuing to operate in that way. They don't care about anything other than their ideology. And somebody as smart as Jeff Bezos, when it comes to business, realizes the fact that they are a dying breed.
They are. I literally just looked at this report yesterday, and it comes from Axios. American citizen trust in the media is actually at its all-time low. In fact, based on a 2024 survey, it's at 31%. Back in the 1970s, that number was at 70%.
There you go.
So they have fallen into irrelevancy. You just can't get straight answers from them. Even Catherine Herridge, right, one of the best reporters of all time, journalists. I mean, regardless of what her politics might be, she's articulate. She actually knows the facts. She got canned by CBS because she was looking into the Hunter Biden laptop story, and she even just released today that there was knowing omission by our intel agencies regarding that laptop. They knew it was real, and yet they purposely had the media go along the lines of saying it was fake. So when you see these cases one after another, whether it's COVID, whether it's the Russian hoax, all of this stuff, and even the wild, more political commentary stuff. Like I know we have a clip coming up about The View. They go on such absurdities that when you hear them say, Trump is going to implement this Nazi, rule of law, and he's got this rhetoric, and he's going to do this and that, when we already have evidence that he didn't do any of that in his first 4 years, it just goes to show that they really are. They're a dying breed. I just don't even with Fox News, I don't turn it on unless it's something big that's happening that it's like, okay, well, let's see what's going on. But then even then, they just have no relevancy anymore.
Steve Bannon, who used to be the head of Breitbart, now, kind of created his own pro-Trump channel, if you will, called The War Room. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison for basically doing the same thing that countless people have done, including people on the left, including Hunter Biden. But he went to jail because he's pro-Trump. He just got out this morning. And he said the one thing that he learned while he was in prison, here's his statement. He said, the rhetoric that's pumped out calling this audience and people like us fascists, saying that amazing rally in Madison Square Garden that could never be pulled off by Kamala Harris or the Democrats. I can tell you, in being a political prisoner, coming from a federal prison, that the young men in this country that are African American and Hispanic detest Kamala Harris. And that's the thing, and it's true. I mean, when you look at various different videos, I just watched a video, I don't know who it was, but he took out to the streets. He went into the hood, he was a white guy, and he had Make America Great Again hats. And black guys all over the streets coming up, grabbing the hats, putting them on, saying, go Trump, go Trump, go Trump, go Trump, go Trump. And I think what it is that you realize, if you're black and Hispanic, that the Democrats have always tried to hold you back. They need you to be on welfare. We've got over 65 million people in this country who are on some kind of entitlement. And the more that those people are on entitlements, the more that they're going to vote Democrat. And I think the one thing about Trump that's really good when it comes to minorities is that he's helped them wake up and realize you don't have to be living like this. You could be at a much greater level. And so they know this at the networks. They know this at Kamala Harris camp. And what they're banking on is the picture that you've got up on the television, which is that more whites will wind up going for Kamala Harris than anybody else.
I hate to say it, white women. I think and that's a shame, because I know at Team DML we have some fantastic women supporters. And just seeing this, I was driving to softball yesterday, going the route to get to the field, and I was shocked by this. I was actually on the phone with mom. And I was like, you're not going to believe this. It's a Kamala group. And I know there was a Trump one a block away, white woman within that one. But I see this, and my two worries with this election are the illegal immigrant vote count that we're not going to be able to track very well. I should say three concerns. Then these radical leftist judges that are going to accept ballots with, questionable origins, and liberal white women. I think that continues to be a big talking point in these last few days. And I see something like this. I mean, I was shocked by it.
For those of you who are listening, let me describe what Dennis is talking about. For those of you who are just listening to the program, not seeing it, on our back screen here, Dennis took a shot from his car. I wound up seeing the same view that he did, only I came from a different perspective. The shot that he has, the picture he has of all these white women who are basically in their 40s and 50s, maybe even early 60s, are holding Harris Walls flags and signs. So Dennis sees this from coming in one direction. He's heading south. I see it heading west, which requires me to cross over a bridge. And when I came down over the bridge, I was like, holy cow, I couldn't believe how big the crowd was on the corner holding up these signs. And to Dennis's point, it's all white. Now, when you come over the bridge, the area that we land in there has got a good mix of black and white. There wasn't a single black person on that corner, not at all. And so that's really, at the end of the day, what's bothering the left here is that they see that they're losing their voter block. Their voter block is going over to Trump. And even the one state, we talked about it yesterday, the one state that Ronald Reagan lost in his 1984 reelection was the state of Minnesota. And now Trump is making inroads and closing the gap. Technically, if this country was running on common sense and there was no cheating, and I had to put money up, I would put money up on the fact that Trump would take 50 states. But because we have illegal aliens who I believe are going to be voting, we've got the shenanigans that we saw just yesterday in Pennsylvania. We've got something else we're going to be bringing up in a couple of minutes here where a woman got arrested because she's urging people to stay online and vote even though the line is long. If this was just a fair election, Trump would win all 50 states in dominating fashion, 80-20.
Totally. I mean, look at it already, right? We have ballots that have been lit on fire. In Nevada, a judge just ruled that any ballots that come in 3 days after the election without postmark on it are going to be counted for. I mean, there are absolute shenanigans, if you want to. Oh, and then the Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, how there was 60,000 or 60% of the accumulated votes they found all had the same signature and fill out forms. So there is clearly manipulation ongoing happening now, and we still have a whole week until we actually get to election day.
Let's go about that manipulation. Joe Rogan is claiming, Joe Rogan's the biggest podcaster in the world. We just talked about the interview that Trump did on Friday. He is claiming that YouTube is making it impossible to find that interview.
Mm-hmm.
It already had 33 million views in just a matter of days. And now that is becoming a problem because Google is burying Rogan's Trump interview on YouTube search.
Yes.
You won't be able to find it.
And now he just gave an update too, because a lot of expectation was, okay, if Trump can go on 3 hours of Rogan, can Kamala? Can she do the same exact thing? And he actually gave an update today that the Harris campaign came back to him and said, we can do it if you can come in 24, 48-hour notice, because it was supposed to be today, and you would have to come to her, and it would only be an hour long. Now, if you know Joe Rogan, and there's politics of his I don't even agree with, but his whole shtick is you come to me, and it's supposed to at least be 2 hours plus, unfiltered, unscripted. And the fact that they're already trying to change the tune, even people joked, okay, he's going to go show up and she's going to somehow appear 30 minutes late like she did to Brett Baer, and it's just going to be a half-hour bogus talking point thing. That's not how it works for this man, how he became the king of podcasts. So, for that, but now this is what they're going to spin with. Oh, we tried to make it work with Rogan. It couldn't work out. That's on him. It's crazy what they do with how they try to dictate the narrative there.
Well, you've got to you got to read between the lines on this. What does it mean? First of all, they totally knew that Joe Rogan was not going to get on an airplane and go chase down Kamala.
No.
See, there's a big, huge difference here, and there's only a few people, and I mean a few people, who could get away with this. In fact, I'll say maybe even only one, which is Joe Rogan. Okay, he may be the only person to be able to get away with this. His audience is so huge and so young, right? And so up and coming that he doesn't need Kamala Harris for the rating. See, if you're a news outlet, you want to get the big names to come on your show if that's what's important to you. I mean, if you sell ads, we don't sell ads. We don't care. We're membership based. We're giving these shows away for free to people. So this way it's election time. But once the election's over, it's Team DML and that's it, right? So we don't sell advertisements or anything like that. But if you're selling advertisements, you need to get your audience up as much as possible because that's how you dictate how much money you have. So all these outlets always want to be the place that's going to get the big interview. They'll travel anywhere. Joe Rogan doesn't need these people. These people need Joe Rogan. Trump is smart enough to realize that. Hey, I'm in a tight race according to polls. I need to tell people that I'm not this monster that they have me out to be. And so he goes and sits down for 3 hours and has one of the most powerful interviews he's ever had. He is going to grab voters from that. There's no doubt. Kamala Harris, she's going to tell Joe Rogan, you need to come to me. And she knew Joe Rogan was going to say no. And on top of that, you're not going to, Joe Rogan's whole thing is, we sit there, I'm not interviewing you. We're having a conversation. And nobody ever gets into a conversation dictating how long that conversation is going to be. If I say to you, Denny, come on over, I want to talk to you about something. I don't say to you, Denny, come on over, but I'm going to tell you the conversation is only going to be a half hour.
Right.
No, if we're talking about something serious, it's come on over and we talk for as long as we need to talk.
I was going to say, even with Trump, he wanted to keep going. He only had to stop it because he had a rally to get to.
Yeah, right. And I got to tell you something. We said this already. I hate to keep on hitting a dead horse here, but I mean, I watched all 3 hours and I wasn't bored. I could have taken in more.
Yeah.
And ask your mother. She can't get me to sit down for a 2-hour movie, let alone 3 hours of political talk. So Kamala Harris blew it because if she really wanted to reach out to people, especially youngsters, she would have been at his doorstep. Because the other thing, too, that she would have the advantage on over Trump in taking on that interview is that she gets to go last. That's the beautiful thing about pulling the last card. Right? So think about the debates. You never want to go first. You want to go last. Because what you get to do is you get to insert something that could contradict or layer on top of what your opponent just said. So she knows some of the things that Trump did in that interview, and she would be able to use that to her advantage. But she can't. She can't take 2 to 3 hours and answer questions. She couldn't do it on a CNN debate. She'd get crushed, and her team knows this. And that's why they make the excuses. That's why when we talked yesterday, and I'll repeat it again today, when we see these polls, I don't believe these polls. They've got to be the biggest lie. We talked about this last night on our show, on our nighttime show, so not everybody heard it. I gave a great explanation, although we're going to put it out live today. Did we put it out live yet today? No? We'll put it up today. I talked about why it is that you can't trust the Wisconsin polling. Wisconsin is made up primarily of 58% of people who did not go to college or do not have a college degree. And that is typically the bailiwick for Trump. That is the voter who always goes for Trump. So you're going to tell me a state that has 58% of that sort of demographic, if you want to say, is going to vote for Kamala Harris? You're going to tell me that the blue-collar worker who's counting every penny is going to say, yeah, I want 4 more years of high prices for gasoline, food, and insurances? There's no way. There's no way you can believe these pollings. It's just absolute lies.
No, and that's why I'm very excited for people to see the interview tonight, because I think one takeaway I have is that I don't think she really is doing all that well with the youth vote, especially Gen Z. When you have, I mean, this is not to, when you have someone closer to Kelly's age, right?
16 years old.
16 years old, young like that. And, she's only 2 years away from voting, but even her friends who are closer to 18, you may not be looking so much at policy as you are looking at the candidates. So what have we seen this election? Trump is going on all these different podcasts besides Joe Rogan. I mean, people that I even haven't heard of, but like younger people, younger than me would know. And then with Kamala, she doesn't touch on that. She did call her daddy, which again is more of like an older millennial, late 20s
It's a sex
for
show.
women. It's a sex show. And then she goes on, Shannon Sharp. And again, you're getting a certain demographic, but she doesn't have that like spunk or coolness that Trump, I think, has exuberated with like the youth vote. I mean, he goes on with Nelk Boys. If you're not familiar with Nelk Boys, they were the king of YouTube for 10 years doing pranks and all this stuff. So he's like able to actually kind of engage in that block. Whereas Kamala, whenever you see her actually interact with a young person too, it's like that relative that like really doesn't care about what's going on with your life, but is gonna for the holiday dinner give you those 3 little basic questions like, oh, how's it going? How's college going? Like, I graduated 2 years ago, Aunt Kamala, but thanks for asking. That's her approach. Whereas Trump is like the cool grandpa look. So I think you may actually see with the demographics that he does a lot better than the youth vote than we're expecting.
I think one of the things people are starting to recognize, albeit slower, is that the mainstream media has lost all credibility. And because they've lost all credibility, people have shied away from it because they want they want more options. They want to hear more viewpoints on the different things that are going on. And that's why things are shifting to everything being online. It was online on Facebook, and now Facebook, with doing the censoring, it's all going to X. X will wind up being, it's already the number 1 downloaded app on most weeks. X will wind up being the single largest platform of all of them combined together. He's just going to skyrocket past all of them, especially if Trump wins. So, one of the things that I was just reading the other day was that mainstream media is relevant in the sense that it still carries some of the big interviews, but people don't watch the interviews. They watch the clips. So a great buddy of mine who actually is going to be on the show Friday, and I'll explain the show that's coming up on Friday, and we'll run throughout the weekend. But I'm going to have 3 people, 3, you can consider them nobodies. Nobody knows who they are, except for the people who know them, right? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to pick 3 people who are everyday Americans, who don't have a microphone in their face, who don't have an app or even Twitter accounts. And I wanted to give them a voice, and we're going to do it for 2 hours. And we're going to sit at the wine table, and it's going to be a 29-year-old who is about to get married in February and, is in the real estate business. You've got a guy who's 62 years old. His name is Tom. He just recently retired, so he needs every penny he's got. And then you've got another guy who is a legal immigrant, my buddy Brennan, who is a legal immigrant. He's a lawyer. He's here. He has to pay taxes, but he's not allowed to vote. So these 3 guys and myself are going to sit down. You and Ryan will be off camera. You'll also have a voice in it. And we're going to discuss about the status of America and what's happening with news and everything else. And you'll hear my friend Brennan. He's going to say, I don't watch any of the television anymore. What I will do is I will take the clips and I'll watch them on X, because I realize that the other stuff that they're going to put up there all day long is going to be garbage. It's just filler. I want to get the most relevant things, and that's what I could get from X. That's the way the world is going, and the mainstream media can't pick up on it.
No, I agree. I mean, just even it confuses me to an extent because, like when I had this interview today and I was thinking about it a little bit after, if you're someone who's even younger than me and you got a whole long life ahead of you, you're going to want to vote for the person that is going to help you have the means to afford a house, to feel safe in your own country. I mean, those were big topics we talked about today. So when I see this, right, when I go with the picture on the screen and I see clearly mostly women who have lived lives at least into their 50s and 60s, and they think she and Tim Walz are the best choice for America.
They don't, Dennis. What they think is that Trump is the worst person for America.
And I don't get it.
A vote for Kamala Harris is not because she's good, not because she's great, not even because she's competent. It's because they hate Trump. There is, I have never yet. Let's keep this in mind. If I'm on television, let's use Ryan Gurdusky. He was just on CNN, right? So the debate there is about name calling. But if that debate would have gone into policy, Ryan Gurdusky would have been articulate and would have been able to say, when Trump was in office, border crossings were down. We had them really low. When he was in office, the salaries for blacks were up. He would have been able to name a lot of positive things under Trump. When you have somebody trying to pitch Kamala Harris, they're never talking about any of her credits. They're never talking about any of her accomplishments. What they're talking about is why Trump sucks. And that's what it is. Kamala Harris is the vote that you make if you think Trump sucks, if you are deranged. That's really what it comes down to. And talking about derangement syndrome, I think we got to play this real quick clip of Whoopi Goldberg. I'm going to set it up. She is trying to warn people that Trump is going to be basically ripping apart interracial marriages. This is how crazy they've become. Play the clip.
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there.
Does The View have any self-awareness?
No.
That is insane to me.
But see, it goes, and this is where, see, what your comment right there is sort of surface level. And because I come from a world of television, I understand that you can't read that book by its cover. The real context of what she just said isn't from Whoopi's mouth. It's from the executives at ABC, okay? The executives at ABC allow that crap to play each and every day. If they were real executives who cared about the content and the programming and looked how it is that the viewers are going off their program and going online, they would rid of that. They would rid of that because that is destruction. That is just basically crumbling it. The View, that's their customer right there. The radicalized lefty. That's it. And there aren't going to be enough of them to carry these people through. It's over for them. And I'll give you another example of how it is that the left knows that Trump is going to dominate this election. So all these polls are coming out, these final polls. And I'm going to give you the Harris-Trump percentages. In a New York Times Siena poll, Harris 46%, Trump 47%. In a CNN poll, Harris 47, Trump 47. Wall Street Journal, Harris 45, Trump 47. And in an ABC poll, Harris 51, Trump 47. Every other poll I just gave you either shows Trump ahead or tied, except for on the ABC poll. ABC, the same debaters who try to go 3 against 1, pinning Trump against the wall, fact-checking him, but never doing anything with Kamala Harris. They are so dishonest. I want to remind people, I wish we had the picture here. ABC News. Years ago, there was a murder scene, and it was multiple families taken out. And ABC took a tripod for a camera and a light stand for light, and they wound up getting themselves the yellow tape that the police officers put around a crime scene where it says crime scene, crime scene, crime. They don't want you going past that tape. They took the tape, they tied it to the light pole, they tied it to the camera stand, put it behind, put the reporter in front of that line, camera shot there. You can't see left, you can't see right, and it makes it look like the reporter is reporting from the crime scene.
Yeah.
Thank God some guy drove by, saw this, took the shot on his cell phone, posted it up online, and ABC was called out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to make things worse, ABC is an official fact checker for Facebook. So when Facebook has you on there and you write something and ABC wants it to be down, they have the power to do that. So Facebook is complicit in a place like this who lies your ass off. How in God's name is she up 51% to Trump's 50 to 47?
Yeah.
And when you look at these other ones, 46 to 47, 47, 47, 45, 47, where Trump is either tied or ahead in all cases, that bodes disastrous for Kamala Harris.
Totally, because I know we've said it before, and you've done it longer than me. I don't know anyone in my life who has been called by any of these news organizations and pulled over the phone, through text, through email, nothing. I think someone at the Madison Square Garden rally, it may have been Tucker, also said the same thing. Like, who the hell are they calling to make, these estimates? And I think they're either calling a very specific pool to get the answers they want, or at this point, because of the desperation level, I think they just make it up. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know anyone. You said, Denny, you got to bring someone to me who's been polled in one of these national surveys. I don't know anyone.
I would like to say, if you can find me somebody, and you could go to the corner here and pick off any one of them. I mean, this is what we should be doing. We should be taking our cameras, if we can find the time, and go down and interview these people and ask them why it is that they like Kamala Harris, why it is that they like Tim Walz. Let's see if they could come out with one thing where they don't say the word Trump.
I want to too. I mean, one of those signs is a little hard for anyone watching to see, but it says veterans, and I can't read the rest of it, but I would even just start with that. I'm like, how do you think Harris and Walz are the better candidates for veterans' mental health or benefits when, Trump's got people actually giving their Purple Hearts to him, and he's proven in his 4 years how much of an ally he's been, not just to our military, but everyone who served afterwards. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole gender debate, but is it really just based off emotion? Like, one of the things I talked about in the interview today with Brylan is about, working off emotion and, discard how you feel about Trump's behavior, but look at his policy. And is it just that the woman 50-year-old, 6-year-old voter who's more centrist can't make that distinction? Because it baffles me.
Like I said,
I'll just say this. When I was genuinely, if I saw blue-haired, piercings, younger Harris Walz supporters, I wouldn't even blinked an eye. I blinked an eye when I passed that last night.
Ryan, what I want to do is I want to change the order of how we're going to play a video. We can do that, right? We can do the Don Jr. So, the idea is that these people who are supporting Harris, whether it's the mainstream media or the lunatics that are on the corners, it's always about Trump. That Trump is a horrible human being. They can never back it up, but they put it as a horrible human being. We have a clip from Don Jr.'s daughter. She was on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And she's explaining why she loves her grandfather and why she tries to spend as much time with him. Play the clip.
Did you watch the video that Bryson did with your grandpa?
Yeah, I did. Oh, look at my mom.
He's like
Voted me up out here.
He's like way better than I expected.
Oh, he's
like,
awesome.
He's unbelievably good at golf, huh?
Yeah, no, he's amazing at golf.
Do you ever get out to play with him that often?
Right now with the last 50 days of the campaign, it's been kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I normally play with him twice a month. And then I'll see him at Mar-a-Lago. I'll drive down after school some days just to spend an hour with him. Even if he's working, he's always working. So it's I'll watch him do campaign stuff and kind of see the background of that.
That's really cool.
Just try to spend as much quality time as possible because you never really know,
Yeah, so there you have Kai Trump talking very favorably about her grandfather, talking about how she, is out constantly golfing with him. Even when he's working on the campaign, she's still spending time with him, learning from him. I think it's even sad at the end how she says, she tries to get as as much time with him as possible because you never know. And I think the implication there is my grandpa almost got assassinated 2 times, and every moment is precious and every moment counts. So you see that she's talking favorably about her grandfather and what he is as a person. And then I just look at this photo of these women. I mean, they're probably all mothers or grandmothers, and to think that they believe Harrison Walls is the best choice for their grandkids or their kids' future is really disheartening to me.
It is. I mean, the other thing too, you've got, it's not just these people that are just randomly out there that you got to question. I mean, George Bush's daughter is actually going to now be going on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I think Barbara Bush also endorsed her today too.
I mean, how? Why? These are supposed to be conservatives. There's not a single value out of Kamala Harris that's conservative value. So you've got to understand that these are votes against Trump, that they're not votes for Kamala Harris. Now, we have another video here we're going to play. In fact, let's play it first, and then Dennis can explain in detail what's going on here. But there's a woman, and you can tell from the video that she's being arrested. She is on line for voting, and they pull her off the line, they arrest her, and they pull her away. Then we'll give you the details on why this happened that will blow you away. Play it, Ryan.
Yeah, so that woman, bless her soul, her name is Val Biacello. She is a GOP state committee woman and an RNC delegate, and that happened in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And she was just trying to emphasize to everyone, like, hey, it's early voting, but at the same time, stay on the line, don't give up, get your ballot counted. She's arrested for it. And in that clip, you hear it at the end, some crazy woman like, she's trying to influence votes. I hate to break it to you, but if you're standing on the election ballot line, you know who you're voting for. I know who I'm voting for. If I'm standing in line and I had, blue-haired Sally in my face, like, Kamala does all this, she's not influencing me. The whole point was that this committee woman was just trying to say, hey, don't give up, make sure your ballot is counted. And the whole purpose to this, the overall scheme, is that because of early voting and because early voting is a reality, the whole point of trying to make sure that Democrats don't get another scapegoat like they did in 2020 is to beat them at their own game. Okay, fine. You want to do early voting? We're going to early vote too. So don't be surprised when you start tallying it that it's showing in Trump's favor. But the fact that this is happening in the critical swing state, I think that video is just perfect optics. You have someone vouching for the freedom of being able to cast your ballot, and she's getting arrested for it, taken away in handcuffs.
Well, that's where people have great concerns about this election being stolen. And I think that anybody who has a concern about it has a legitimate concern. And one has to wonder what things are going to look like in this country if indeed Kamala Harris pulls out a middle of the night victory. We've already told you, listening to this program, that multiple different states have said that they're not going to have the results on election night. Some are saying that it could be multiple days, even longer. This is not going to go over well with the American citizens. Trump right now, as we're speaking, is hosting a live press conference from Mar-a-Lago. Dennis, you were right. Barbara Bush endorsed Kamala Harris today. I mean, it's unbelievable how far gone our country has slid to where you can take a man who doesn't have a perfect life, but you just heard his granddaughter. He's not an evil human being. He's done so much for charity. He's done so many things for so many people, and yet they want to just make him sound like he's Hitler. And it's the fault of the media. It's really what it is. And I think the media is going to pay a great dear price in the end. I really do, and I hope it happens. I hope it happens. I mean, it would be my greatest prayer, is that I hope that there would be, in the next couple of years, no more ABC, NBC, CBS News. I hope they all implode, and that, news stations never really made a whole lot of money anyway. Cable came around, and then it started to become a different story. But I hope that they all implode, and that everything can go to X, not because I'm an Elon Musk fan and he's going to vote for Trump, but because I believe it is the pendulum sort of fixing itself. It's not going to go too far right. It's not going to go too far left. It's going to allow the middle to play itself out. You're going to get stories from both sides, and people can make their own decision.
And look, truthfully told, especially with the media now, since Trump kind of entered the realm of politics since 2015, I think there is a sense of just self-hatred. Take Jim Acosta, for example. No matter what he does for the rest of his career, he will always be known as the reporter that got shut down by Trump and was labeled as fake news. That's going to be his legacy. I think there's a part of CNN pundits or MSNBC that they just know that they're going to be viewed as these irrelevant radicals that pull in measly numbers or the same echo chamber every night, and that nothing they do is truly authentic or even close to a podcast like this or a Joe Rogan podcast or any of the other ones that Trump has appeared that have just that natural conversational speak about policy, but also speak about, what's true to your heart and who you are as a person. They will never achieve that. They're going to be the channel that's turned on at the airport because something's got to play in the background. And I think a lot of them, if they do have self-awareness, have picked up on that. And the ones that don't have self-awareness are just crazy like Whoopi, thinking that Trump is going to break up interracial marriages. His literal running mate is in an interracial marriage. Like, talk about absolute lack of no self-awareness and just low IQ, Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I mean, look, so I'm just reading something here on X. This is trending right now. It says the New York Times is launching a hit piece against 30 prominent conservatives, including Tucker Carlson, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, and others, in an attempt to deplatform them from YouTube ahead of the election based on so-called research by the fraudulent organization Media Matters.
Oh, yeah. Did you? So you missed it. I sent you a screenshot of Tucker Carlson's text message exchange with that reporter from Media Matters.
And what is it? What does it say? I didn't see it.
Same BS. One, totally fixed opinion by the reporter saying, we're doing a report on misinformation. Here are examples of your misinformation. And Tucker said, you can quote me on this, but you can go F yourself.
Yeah. So Benny Johnson, who's a new and upcoming youngster, he's got a nice crowd of young people. He put forward what looks like a message that he got from the New York Times. I'll read it to you. It says, "Good day. I hope you're well. I'm Nico Grant, a reporter at the New York Times. I wanted to give Benny Johnson an opportunity to comment for an upcoming article that takes a look at how political commentators have discussed the upcoming election on YouTube. We rely on data compiled by researchers at Media Matters for America, which we have independently verified." By the way, Media Matters is George Soros.
Yes.
"Could you kindly provide us with a comment or decline to comment by end of day tomorrow, Tuesday, October 29? Thanks so much for your time. Here are points we plan to include. Media Matters identified 286 YouTube videos from 30 major creators between May and August that contained election misinformation, including narratives that have been debunked or are not supported with credible evidence. Researchers identified some videos posted by Mr. Johnson in those 4 months that contained election misinformation." So that's what it is. They're trying. See, we don't even do YouTube. I mean, we don't even do YouTube. We'll post YouTube simply once in a while because if Rumble's not working, we'll put it up on YouTube. They killed me off a long time ago off the island.
So Benny posted that on X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tucker did the same thing with that screenshot. I think that's the beauty of something like X. That reporter was the same one that reached out to Tucker. It is so clear what their established narrative already is.
Sure. Wait, there's more here. There's a second part to it. It's pretty interesting. I just gave you the little list. There's a second part of the list. According to the Times and Media Matters, Benny shared conspiracy theories that have been debunked, including that Democrats broke the machines to deny Republicans a victory in Arizona on election night in 2020, and that Mr. Trump's legal problems are a result of election interference from Democrats. Mr. Johnson, who once wrote for Breitbart and BuzzFeed, tapped into the potent issue of immigration on YouTube, where he has 2.5 million subscribers. What does that mean? You're not allowed to talk about immigration on YouTube? YouTube placed ads on 35 of his videos containing misinformation, and they attracted 7 million views. Mr. Johnson argued without sufficient evidence that Democrats have not closed the border because they are planning on making immigrants 30 million new Democrat voters in a monetized video with 157,000 views. What's so bad about that? He's not allowed to share his opinion? And last, Media Matters researchers wrote that Johnson and his guests falsely claimed that 2020 was rigged and Democrats cheated by nominating Vice President Harris. Look, so we're entering a realm, and we got to wrap this up. We are entering a realm where you are going to be silenced. And if you're not silenced and you're making money, they're going to come after you. And the pressure is going to be put on YouTube to deplatform these people. If they're not deplatformed, they'll be demonetized. And by those means, the idea is you will not be able to survive in business. I mean, I'll say this much here. I just had a conversation last night, with a representative from X about advertising. And he said to me, "What is your objective?" I said, "My objective is to bring more people to our show because I think we have the best show there is. I've listened to these other guys and I respect them all, but they've had advantages that we haven't had. I was much bigger than all these guys in 2016. And in 2016, because of my influence, let me give you some numbers. In 2016, I had 1.3 million followers on Facebook. Today, all these years later, hundreds of millions of plays on my videos, I only have 1.3 million. It stayed the same. In 2016, I had 29,000 people following me on YouTube. Today, 8 years later, I have 29,000. On X, I actually went from 100,000 to 39,000. Okay? They destroyed me on X. And then I don't think there's any other ones. If you look at that, it is a clear indicator. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, there is. We had a second page on Facebook that you were actually operating at the beginning. It was called Fighting for Trump. We wound up gathering 220,000 people within a matter of months. What do we have today on that? 220,000. We have had zero growth. Zero growth. How does that happen? All these other guys have had incredible growth because they came after me. Dan Bongino ran for office 3 times, lost all 3 times, and said, got to do something else with myself. Create a podcast, Fox News, put him all over the place, and before you know it, he's putting money into Rumble, and now he's got everybody listening to him. Ben Shapiro, nobody knew him, right? What happens? He goes to give a speech at Berkeley. They start to burn down Berkeley, and now all of a sudden he's a big, huge name. Tucker, right? Winds up getting the nighttime show. He was on weekends. He was barely even surviving at the time in 2016. He winds up getting the nighttime show. He gets fired. Now he's the biggest name in conservative media. Megyn Kelly, same thing. So when you look at this, I've already been down this. These guys are entering the world. Media Matters used to throw hit pieces after me, unbelievable hit pieces. And what these guys are all going to learn is that they are going to go after them until they could demonetize them to heaven and back, hell and back. The way that we were able to survive, thank God, is that we created Team DML, and we've always recognized, hey, we're never going to be able to grow as much as these other guys have because they crushed us in 2016 and we never came back. Now with X, this is what I said to the guy in X. I said, look, I've been in the background for a very long time. And now that you guys are here and you're making it fair, I want to build a presence on here that's commensurate with these other guys. I think we'll blow past them. I said, because I can't stay on Facebook anymore. I can't do YouTube anymore. Everybody is silencing the conservative, and I want to grow. I want to grow my membership. And he said, okay, fine, let's do it. When X does that sort of thing, that's why Elon Musk is going to have the biggest target on his back. YouTube, if Trump wins this, let me say this, and we could close out. If Trump wins this election, mark my word now, YouTube will not allow any more conservative podcasts on there. They will close them all down. Everybody will be demonetized because YouTube is going to get blamed like Facebook got blamed in 2016. And that's the way it's going to be. And there's only going to be one place to go, and that's X. And believe me when I tell you, they're going to have the proverbial guns at that man's head. So this way, voices like ours are absolutely silenced once and for all and forever. It's really what it comes down to.
I 100% agree. I think what Elon Musk has done with X, honestly, I think what he's done with X has maybe even inspired the Jeff Bezos. You know, he tells Washington Post, don't make an endorsement, and apparently he wants to actually hire some conservative columnists for the paper. And I think it's because, you know, they're realizing that the liberalism doesn't really shtick. You know, people want actual truth and authenticity. So I'm in agreement with you. I think X is going to skyrocket. You know, if Trump wins, it's going to become the platform. If Trump doesn't win, I get a little worried for Elon's safety, and I'm praying and hoping for the best for him, because I think he's going to be one of the pioneers to take us into the next stage of where humans are meant to go.
With that being said, it's we didn't intend that to be the case, but we're going to do it right now. A little pitch for Team DML. If you're listening to this and you're not a member of Team DML, you know what? Look, we don't sit here and bombard you with commercials like the other guys do. We don't get paid from from sponsors. I don't do that. I'm not going to try to sell you to go buy Birch Gold or any other gold when I don't use them myself. So I'm proud in that end, and I take a lot of money out of my pocket by doing that. I take a lot of money from the boys that they could be making if we did sponsors. I could sell a lot of stuff, but we don't do it. So we ask you, if you want to make sure that we stick around, we ask you, please, we're doing an election special. We can't even make it any cheaper. $30 for the entire year. You get a lot of benefits. You get to stay with this show. You get our morning newsletter. You get a bunch of different things. So we ask you go to teamdml.com, and for $30, you could try keeping us alive. If Harris wins somehow, some way, I don't know what our destiny will be, to be quite honest. We talk about this every single day, and it's sort of like we just push it off until next week, but we'll see. But we really need people to come on over and try to support Team DML. I mean, I will say this. I don't even get paid. I do this for free. My boys get paid. I don't get paid because all the expenses eat up. I do not get paid from this. So I do it for free. Keep us around. TeamDML.com, $30. And later on today, Dennis, at 7 p.m. tonight, like we said, he did an interview, very interesting interview with a young man today that you're going to want to hear later on, 7 p.m. If you download the DML News app, which is completely for free, you'll be able to watch the interview. Of course, it's also on Team DML. Denny will be online on Team DML at 7 o'clock in the chat room to discuss with you what his interview is all about and what you guys thought of it and what have you. And then tomorrow again, God willing, we'll be with you in the morning. Then we'll be with you again in the afternoon, in the evening. And please don't forget what I said at the beginning. DMLCBD.com/BOGO, BOGO. DMLCBD.com/BOGO. It's a buy one, get one free for the best CBD there is out there in the world. We've got products out there that people swear by on so many different levels. We never get complaints. It's the greatest brand there is. I make sure everything is tested safe, and we only sell stuff that we know works well. We use our products ourselves. They're all lined up here. Go to DMLCBD.com/BOGO to help yourself get better sleep, to help yourself build your immune system, to curb the anxiety, to rid of the aches and pains that riddle everybody. I mean, they don't riddle me like they used to. And then, of course, there's various different skin issues that we can have a product for you to look at, and maybe it will help you too. DMLCBD.com/BOGO. Make sure you check it out. As far as we go, we hope that you and your family are blessed by God. We say God bless America and God bless Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team Email blessing goes out to David Curry.
All right, David, run with it. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.